Hey, Courtney, can you hear us? Just want to check the audio.
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes. Great, thank you.
Yep.
site fees.
Courtney, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, we can get started. All right, folks, time now is 1 o'clock. Welcome to the February meeting of Board of Directors of ErieNet. Before we get started, let me just do a quick roll call. Dan Castle.
Here.
Mike Breeden.
Here.
Present.
Jeremy Toll.
Here.
John Spears.
Here.
Mills.
Here.
Myers is absent. You have a quorum. See the minutes, the email. There are no additions, corrections. Then can I have a motion to approve the minutes from January
Motion.
by Mr. Cornell?
Second.
Reason. Favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? All right, get right into the report of the chair. Today we have with us Mr. Josh Heim, John Lewski, forgive me. They're here to present, what ErieNet should be thinking about doing relative to our investments that we have with M&T Bank, or our account that we have with M&T Bank. So that's why they're here. Earlier in the year, we selected M&T Bank as our bank of choice. Since then, Josh and his team have been helping us get up to speed with establishing our account and doing all things relative to getting payments out the door. So we appreciate them. And so without further ado, Josh, feel free to take it away. You can also come to the table.
I'll just say good afternoon. Real briefly, I'm Josh Heim. I work on all the bank accounts for ErieNet, and we're very honored that you selected M&T. My role at the bank is working with public and quasi-public municipalities and related entities. That's all I do. And as part of the team that I manage and coordinate, we work on an investment program that a lot of municipalities, development corporations have taken advantage of and have really benefited from. That's where my colleague John comes in, and he's really the expert. So I won't take much time other than to say thanks for having us. Thank you for selecting M&T, and we'll work very hard throughout the relationship to make sure your organization is in good hands. So thank you.
Hi, my name is John Zaleski. I work for M&T Financial Services, part of a sales group called the Investment Solutions Group, or ISG. We're essentially the fixed income team of M&T. We offer traditional brokerage relationships, so it's non-managed money. And it is a fee-based account, simply based on a transaction. Currently, I'm dealing with about 47 government accounts between New York, Vermont, and Connecticut. I have a few counties. I have a state government, fire district, library, school districts, and they're all doing the same thing, which is essentially they're using treasuries to augment their deposit relationship. That's pretty much it. I won't go into the treasuries so much as simply to say that usually it's an acceptable investment for all the local governments. In other words, there's sometimes very little that you can do in terms of actual investing. It depends on, of course, your investment guidelines, if you have a set parameters yet. If not, we can help you also write something like that. But usually the government accounts are sticking to the treasury investment process. What's nice about it too is not only can I supply the rates obviously ahead of any sort of investment that you might consider, you actually price out the investment ahead of time so you can see what you're going to make before you commit to any investment. I wanted to share some rates. Unfortunately, these rates are from last week. They're actually higher today. Already, it seems like every day they're going up. But you can see that even going as short as a month, you're well over 440 at this point in time. 6 months and a year are approaching 5% at this time, and we should be able to be. It seems like the market is trending in a way where that could be part of, we could be seeing that for the rest of 2023. Initially, there was this thought that interest rates were going to trend down at the end of the year. As more and more economic data comes out, we're seeing less and less of that idea. And we think 2023 is going to stay pretty close to where they are, if not even climb a little bit farther from where they are here. I don't know if you have a cash flow schedule, but if you do, what we can do is we can take that and we can find maturities that would coincide with those dates. There's a treasury bill from 1 to 4 months. There's 2 treasuries that come due every week, every Tuesday and Thursday. From 5 and 6 months, there's one every week, and from 6 months to a year, there's one every 4 weeks. So we can usually get pretty close to a date. I don't know if you don't have a cash flow schedule that is set in stone. What normally we ask is, what's the maximum term that you're comfortable with? And then what we would do is we would ladder investments from across that term. The idea behind the laddering is you're reducing your reinvestment risk as it relates to what's going to happen with interest rates. It's very hard to predict. They're going to stay high or they're going to go lower. We think they're going to stay high, but we wouldn't have predicted what happened in 2022 at the end of 2021 either. So if the maximum term was a year, we would probably suggest something like monthly or quarterly investments. And then the idea would be, if interest rates fall, you have some money that's locked in on the long end. And if interest rates climb, you have money that's going to be coming due in a short amount of time to reinvest into these higher rates. The paperwork to get started is nominal. Essentially, we're collecting pretty bare bones information because it's a government account. And the only thing we would need is an ACH link to a bank account that you designate. At that point, the process for investing is we would share rates with you based on the current market. We would come back, you would come back either with dates that you have or a schedule of money you feel comfortable with. I would then price out the investments, price out everything before you committed to the actual trade. And at that point, if everything looks good, I verbally confirm the order and then execute the transaction. I debit the bank account. I keep track of all the maturities when there's something coming due. Parties saying, you have this much money coming due, here are the new rates, and the process starts all over again. I would use the proceeds from the maturing security to pay for the new trade. Obviously, if you needed money to go back, it's an overnight process. It's an ACH transfer, so if something was maturing today, I would credit the money today and you would see it in the bank account the following morning. I think what's interesting about the period of time that we're in right now is fixed income for the last 10 years has pretty much been fixed. There hasn't been a lot of income to it. And we finally are reaching a point where you can actually make some money on the investments that are out there. I mean, post-financial crisis in 2008, interest rates went to zero. They stayed at zero. The Fed funds rate stayed at 25 basis points until 2016. And then by 2018, the Fed raised it all the way to 2%. And then COVID hit, and then we had 2 more years back at zero. So this is a rare opportunity to try to lock in without risking principal by choosing treasuries. And it's a pretty straightforward process to get started, and it's certainly not something you can be criticized in choosing the treasuries. The other investments that you could look at, such as corporate bonds and things like that, in my opinion, are not really offering a significant reward at this point in time, especially if you're staying within a year. You may be able to pick up 20, 30, or 40 basis points, depending on the risk tolerance that you would have. Considering you're capturing 440 to 500 basis points almost, that doesn't seem like a big jump to me. But this would be the alternative that we're dealing with our government accounts that we're helping Josh with, and we thought it might be a good fit for you guys as well. I didn't know if there was any questions on the...
I guess I have a general question.
Sure.
That nobody else would answer I'm just going to take the opportunity with the potential of the debt ceiling fight in Congress. What, if any, impact does that have on?
Sure. The idea is that currently, at some point, the government is making their debt payments in spite of the fact that they don't have the ability to raise the debt limit at this point in time. So they're moving money between different things to take care of that. The worst case scenario, the most likely outcome of this is sometimes before we reach that critical point in July when they can't make the payment, is they will reach a resolution. They'll come together, they'll come up with some idea that will allow them to raise the debt limit, continuing their borrowing uninterrupted. The worst potential case scenario is that they stonewall each other and they miss a payment. They don't make an interest payment. Then, of course, everything would accelerate at that point. You would think that at that moment they would raise the debt limit because they would see the fallout from it, and then they would make their payments in arrears. I can't imagine that happening. The answer to your specific question, though, is we do not see it affecting the interest rates at this point in time. In other words, the maturities for the June or July are not out of line with the maturities for later in the year or for the maturities before that. So at this point, the market is not taking it seriously yet that these are the dates that you should avoid.
And when just when would the market potentially? When would we start seeing, some?
I would think that it's a tough thing because it's never happened before.
Right.
So
Okay.
this is purely
Yeah.
speculating. A couple months beforehand, if we got through the end of April and still nothing had been solved, I think for them we're starting to get pretty close to the dates in question, and so yeah, that would be the. And I don't know what the fallout would be, to be honest with you, because so much of, like for example, I don't know, are your deposits? Do they have
Collateralized?
Collateralized?
Yes, they are.
So
The way that if I could, let me just step back. So as part of what we've done for ErieNet is, even though you're a local development corporation and your state policies may be a little bit different than a typical municipality, we've set you up with bank products in line with a local government. So everything's compliant with New York State municipal finance law. So we collateralize all of your deposits on the bank side. So if M&T Bank were to fail, within, I believe it's 48 hours, FDIC insurance would pick up the first $250,000 on each type of account, and then subsequent to that, our third-party collateral provider would then reimburse your organization for the rest of your deposits.
the idea was getting is usually what the collateralized portion of that is backed by government securities, specifically treasuries or treasury-backed securities. So it's one of those things that is hard to say what the fallout would be. But at this point, at least the market is sort of trending more on the idea that it's reacting more to the Federal Reserve than to the debt crisis at this point in time.
Actually, that's a very good question. We've had, I myself have had two local governments ask that exact question, right? And to John's point, we collateralize deposits, local government deposits, with T-bills and other securities. So if we got to the point where the federal government defaulted, there's sort of a bigger problem than investment rates thinking a little bit.
Okay.
That's encouraging.
Okay.
I mean, from the your collateral would fall through. From the investment side, what I would really say is if it got to that point, I don't think the question is, would you not get paid? I don't think that is the real question. You would get paid. You would get, if you had a maturity that fell in that time frame, I think the idea would be you would get paid late. But there's still things that they can do even without Congress. They can actually mint money to resolve this problem if they chose to. But I think that they're going to have enough cooperation to overcome that before it actually gets to that critical point. But I wanted to ask Josh because I didn't know, is there an investment policy already in place?
There is, and this is compliant.
Okay.
The Treasury bill investment is compliant.
Okay. Very good.
So this is, just a quick summary to John's presentation here. So in New York State, there's very little you can do with local public money, rightly so, no risk at all, right? This program, for the first time since 2018, is really a nice way to earn a little bit of investment income, okay? These rates far exceed what a bank can do, not just M&T, but any bank. T-bill rates are much higher than a collateralized bank deposit. So this is a nice way to augment your banking relationship. It can't replace any one piece, and we don't encourage putting every single dollar over on the investment side because you need liquidity, right? And there is some liquidity here, but there's not the liquidity of a bank product. So this is a nice way to augment, to earn some extra interest income, and really to further support your operations as you launch and start doing your project.
The one last thing I would add is a lot of people start out with a very short investment just to see how it works, to sort of test the water, so to speak. But I would encourage you to sort of think about what is the maximum term for some amount of money that you do. Because at some point, the reality is the Federal Reserve will be successful in slowing down the economy, and once that happens, you will see a relatively quick reversal, at least in the longer term yields, like 12 months or 18 months or 2 years. And that will start to trend down relatively quickly, especially as the market anticipates, let's say, a pause or reversal in some of these in their rate policy at this point in time. But if you decide to move forward, the next step would be simply me restarting the paperwork, and from there we could get to work. Well, thank you, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Very interesting. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh and John. We appreciate you coming to the meeting.
Thanks.
So moving along the agenda here, part of the report of the chair, I just wanted to give the board high-level overview of the executive director search that we've been in the process with the personnel committee. Ever since, I want to say around December, we opened it up to receive resumes. We did a ad on Indeed. We tried to keep it separate from the county, of course, to make that distinction. During that time, we received about 24 resumes. Our first round of interviews, which committee is comprised of Mr. Castle, Mr. Spears, Mr. Cornell, and myself. We had a round of first interviews, and that was comprised of about exactly four candidates. We had Zoom interviews or WebEx first round, and then this past Friday, we whittled that down to 2 final candidates. And we had those interviews on Friday at the library, of course. And so in our executive session that we anticipate having today, we'll have a deeper discussion about specifics, which we just wanted to give the broader team here information as to how that process is working. All right. The next, Dan, you got a question?
I was going to say that the plan for going forward is to have a special meeting some point in the next couple of weeks of the board, specifically to take up this item.
Yeah, so we'll discuss those things in executive session just to make sure everybody has an objective perspective of how we move forward. So I want to keep that open to the board. So the next thing, in line with hiring of the executive director, in your packets, after the minutes, we have the layout of benefits from ECIDA. So just to sort of put this in perspective, many organizations have used ECIDA as, I would say, backup house for hiring and administration of human resources. So I'm aware that BuzzFeed does it. You know, the LDC does it. County LDC, which is an offshoot of the ECIDA. So there's a couple other organizations that work with ECIDA to provide this service. So what I asked for ECIDA was to provide me with a summary of their coverage, their benefits. So as you can see, they go through the health, dental, retirement, disability, life insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So what will happen is, what we intend to do is much in the same way that those other organizations manage this relationship with ECIDA, we will sign on with them as well until ErieNet gets up to speed and to a place where they can handle the HR of the organization. We intend to engage ECIDA to handle that backup house for us moving forward. So one thing to note is that there is no pension program. The New York State retirement system is not connected with the ECIDA, and it will not be connected with ErieNet as well. So that's something to take note. But they do have a pretty generous retirement package, which you'll see is the third item there in the summary of benefits. So just to put this out there, this is more than likely the same plan that will follow for you. Any questions so far?
So this is the benefits package. If you work for ECIDA, this is the benefits package, and ErieNet is just going to duplicate that.
That's right.
For the, yeah.
Same with the
We
land
just
bank.
did that. We just did that for the land bank.
Land bank is the same.
Yep.
No need to recreate any rules here.
The land bank, you know, that started within Erie County DEP, and eventually moved off on its own. Because of the need to keep separation between the county and LDC. So we're trying to accelerate that, where I think the land bank was within DEP for a few years before it spun off. We're trying to accelerate that a little bit here.
So next, if you remember, moving on to item number 4 there, if you remember, we were working under the assumption that we would use Lawley as our insurance provider. Given that relationship, relationship and our ability to latch on to procurement already undergone by the county. But unfortunately, when they returned back to me with a quote, it was astronomical. So I had a conversation with STN, Southern Tier Network, which is a similar organization to ours. They gave me some information about some different brokers that could get that cost down to maybe a third, if not less, than what Wally was quoting. Partly because I think there's just not as much information about what ErieNet is, and so they had difficulty quoting appropriately for us. So it's a new industry, and but needless to say, we think they're 30 to 25% less than what it's quoted. So that's in process now. We'll have more information next board.
This is liability insurance?
This is general liability insurance. This is directors and officers insurance. This is the full suite of insurance. All right. And then number 5. So on Thursday, as a part of moving the initiative forward, one of the key things that we need to do is purchase fiber. And we also need to purchase boxes, or a firm to create boxes that sit on the pole for the fiber. So those are the 2 RFPs that will be going out on Thursday. So just to keep you all up to date, so we were posting in the Buffalo News and a few other beads that are associated with the Buffalo News. And then we're also posting in a minority newspaper, which is Challenger. ECC will also be distributing the RFP to specific firms that they're associated with that do this type of work. In addition, we'll be on the Erie county website as well as the ErieNet website. So we'll be pretty well circulated with these RFPs.
Two RFPs, two
Yeah.
different RFPs.
So,
How many of these fiber providers are located in the US?
well, I have no idea.
You mean like the physical cable
Yeah,
providers?
yeah.
Most of it's manufactured here.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, like up
Is
at
this what
Corning.
Corning does?
Yeah.
Here, or I don't even know, I don't know where.
They have plants elsewhere, but they
Okay.
do have plants here as well and North America. So,
Okay.
Matt did mention that he wanted to make sure that if there is something that is international, that we consider it, given the pricing, and the timing. So not just looking at North America proper or even local proper, we're looking at the full gamut to see what best pricing is and the timing and storage requirements for the fiber. So there's,
availability is gonna be the difficult part.
yeah. So,
So if we're purchasing it now, we're reviewing RFPs now, what's our anticipation of, like, how long are we talking about storage?
right. So it all depends on who the company is that we decide. So all of these things are a variable. So where it's stored, how long it's stored, how long shipping will take, how long manufacturing will take, it's all a variable. And I think that once we get maybe beyond, the RFP is due March 16th, if I'm not mistaken, we'll have more information like this.
Because you won't need all 400, say, miles day one.
Right, but you gotta purchase them all.
Yeah, so you don't really want to have to store it, and plus you would like to receive it in, say, 100-mile segments or something like that.
Right. Oh, that's complicated.
And then I think there's also
Like-
opportunities for MWBEs too, that they're looking into to spread the work around a little bit. All right,
How long does it take for those RFPs to come back? Will they go out Thursday? Is it normally a month, or what do we normally,
typically we do 3 to 4,
are these bids or proposals?
so there are.
RFPs, okay. Okay. Thank you.
So before we move on, just want to acknowledge Jason Keating. He is the Town of Boston Supervisor. He's on WebEx right now. We just want to acknowledge him. He is will be selected as our newest board member for ErieNet. We're just waiting for the appointment to come down, but we hope to have him physically in attendance next board meeting. So welcome, Jason. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you very
All right.
much. Looking forward to help.
Thank you, Jason. All right, so no committees met this month. We don't have any unfinished business, so we'll get right into the resolutions. So how this will work is I'll read the resolution, I'll take a motion, we'll discuss it, and then we'll have a vote. So resolution 2302, resolution of the ErieNet Local Development Corporation, authorizing the negotiation and execution of an agreement to engage Bisbane Consulting Group LLC to provide fund accounting software services. And I will motion.
Motion approved?
Second.
All right, so as you can see in your packet, after the ECIDA summary of benefits memo, and you have the associated quotes. So basically, our procurement allows us to, under a certain amount of money, to essentially get email bids quotes. And so that's the process that we followed, myself along with Lumsden and McCormick. We sat through a couple, you know, what do you call these things? These, show you the product.
The demo.
Oh, yeah, we sat through a couple demos, and we got quotes from 3 providers. And it really came down to first locality, cost, and, you know, the opinion of, you know, Lumsden and McCormick, of course. And we settled upon the Brisbane, which is actually AccuFund, is the actual software. But basically, it's accounting software to support the organization. And it's absolutely necessary at this point. We have to cut checks. We have to do a bunch of stuff. We need to get it set up. So Any questions about the software?
No, just in, Lumsden McCormick's, opinion, they're comfortable with that product compared to the others. I mean, clearly there's a bit of a cost savings, but it isn't an inferior product. It gives us everything we need.
So, the reason why I have Lumsden McCormick on is because I wanted them, because they're our accounting firm, to give us what they thought was a good product. And so they led off with Accu. But then I said, I need to see at least 3 more.
Gotcha.
I don't want, once you.
Okay, interesting. So this was their preferred.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we did the necessary legwork, did the demo, but certainly there were ones that were fancier.
I think that Sage, intact, right?
Yeah. But ultimately, this was certainly what we need, flexible, can grow with us, very basic, user-friendly software. I saw it for myself, and I think it'll give us everything we need. So yes, this was their preferred service.
Just note one thing, technical item in the resolution. There's a typo in the name of the company. It should be Brisbane, not Brisbane. So we don't have to do that over again. In the, right up here, yeah.
Good catch.
Well, it was confusing because I thought, oh, they must be in the Brisbane building. Then I realized they weren't. But that was odd, that's all.
Okay.
But just to,
Any more questions? Not, we can take it to a vote. Favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All right, so next we have, Resolution 2303, a resolution of the ErieNet Local Development Corporation authorizing the negotiation and execution of an agreement to engage Labella Associates to provide engineering and design services for attachment broadband assets upon and within New York State Electric and Gas Corp infrastructure.
Motion?
Second. All right, so this next resolution here is similar to the one that we saw last month for Leidos. And Leidos is the organization firm that was procured for National Grid. So we have 2 sides of the ball here. We have NYSEG and we have National Grid. NYSEG owns poles and National Grid owns poles. The distinction here is that National Grid has 5 engineering firms that we had the opportunity to select from. So the RFP, they responded, Leidos was the best as far as pricing. Now, NYSEG is different because they have a preferred contractor, so no procurement was necessary. So they only use Labella. And so as a result, because they're their poles and we have to get on their poles, we're subjected to use the engineering firm of their choice. So that's the distinction. So this is for make-ready services. So this is for NYSEG looking at these poles and making sure that they're available for us to use, what lines are on the pole, what services exist, and what it will take for us to access those poles.
The process for a NYSEG pole is different than the process for a national, although the end result is the same.
Different company. Yeah.
Different company, different poles, different
But same
process. Well, same process, but yeah. But at the end, we'll find out on every pole,
right,
what's there, what needs. I see.
Roughly 9,000 poles.
9,000 poles.
Never think about that many poles.
What is that? 9,000 poles in the ErieNet area or in Erie County?
No, in the ErieNet where they're laying the fiber.
I see. Oh, okay.
Where the fiber will be attached to those 9,000 poles.
Those are the 9,000 poles.
Correct.
Okay.
286 miles, is it?
I see. Give or take, I assume.
Yeah.
There's
Always.
Well, because
give or take.
because of those efficiencies that
Right.
they were able to find, there may be, considerations of some expansion, over, with some of those savings.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a lot.
From a cost comparison, how do they compare to Leidos?
It's the same.
Oh, it's the same price?
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, that was the big question I had there. It would be more expensive since you only really had one option.
I'll ask another technical question because, again, nobody would ever answer me in any other context. Is this actually somebody going out to the pole and inventory, or is it something back office? They have it, it's actually to the pole
taking pictures,
Taking
climbing up
pictures,
it, seeing
climb-
what's in
All right.
the box already, what connections there are.
And the ECC has already been to every pole too. Their guy Mac here will probably be out there when they're doing a lot of this
I see.
to look over the shoulder, because the concern they've had in the past is that if, NICEAG or National Grid thinks, oh, someone's gonna be out there, we can get them to replace our pole, they'll be like their consultants will be more likely to say, yeah, you need to replace the pole. Mac goes, yeah, no, you don't. So he's out looking there over their shoulder,
I
make
see.
sure that they're not just using this, as a way to get their infrastructure upgraded.
And I assume ECC, because they don't have a specific relationship with National Grid or NICEAG, they can only take sort of that cursory, view of it. They can, from ground level, they can
Yeah,
take
they
a
look
at
up
all
at
that.
it, yeah.
They don't have the insurance or any of those requirements to actually climb the pole,
No,
open up any of the, infrastructure that's in there.
yeah, you're right. They're looking from the ground, what can we see? And their experience doing this elsewhere in the state.
But one thing that ECC has already identified simply is that typically what they would have, they being NICEAG or National Grid would have us do, or ErieNet ECC do, is move the existing lines down, then go on top. So
Down the pole.
correct. So you have to move each line down, and ECC was like, well, why can't we just go on the bottom of the pole? Why do we
Right,
need to-
exactly.
Why do we need to be on?
But those are the type of things that they're in the relationship that they're given their experience. Those are the type of cost saving, intuitive measures that they identify for ErieNet, which makes them so useful.
Okay. That's,
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't have even,
Right.
so outside my field of expertise.
Right. If no more questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Attention, opposed, so moved. All right, so, item number 7 is a discussion of we need to have relative to the hiring of the executive director, so, if I can have a motion to discuss matters leading up to the employment of a particular person. Public Officers Law 105, 1F.
Yeah.
So we're moving into executive session.
That is correct. All
So,
in favor?
Aye. So we need to,
yeah, anybody that's on the phone that's.
Wait, so
We're good.
Courtney will take us out, we'll get kicked in Good now? Oh, yeah.
Yep, you're all set.
Okay.
All right, so, no action was taken in executive session. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, very productive. I emailed Bob Murray a while back to
Oh, yeah?
guide me on the